Hello, everyone. This is Lisa Collins with PrimePay. We're going to get started here in just about a minute. Just wanted to make sure everybody could see the presentation and hear us. If somebody would just give me a thumbs up or let me know, that would be great. Thanks. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 1:30 Eastern Time, and I want to hold to the time that we kept here. As I said, my name is Lisa Collins. I am the Director of Broker Concierge Partnerships here at PrimePay, and I want to welcome you to our broker webinar this month. This webinar is going to be a bit different. We're going to focus on strategic business ideas, and we have an awesome guest speaker today. He is going to present what he calls broker excellence. Here at PrimePay, we truly do value our broker relationships, and through a partnership, we can really drive success together. Our BC program, we created it several years ago, and it's to help brokers succeed in our ever-changing industry. So how we do this is through delivering relevant content, as we're offering here today, continuing education, tools and resources to help you as a broker strengthen your client relationships, neutralize your competitive threats, meet those client demands that you're getting, and create new revenue stream. So today's webinar really aligns itself with these founding principles. This presentation will focus on strategic business initiatives with our guest speaker, a very talented, and I might say sought after industry leader. I'm really excited to introduce Ryan Miller. Ryan will be presenting just a portion of his program called Broker Excellence, focusing on building a business development team. We're going to hold it to about 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes. Want to allow for questions at the end of the presentation. Everyone is on mute, as we always do, just because of the volume of participants on the call. But Ryan does want to address your questions. So as we go through the presentation, feel free to post your questions in that question area, and we'll monitor the questions throughout the presentation, and we'll get to them at the end. So before we get started, a little bit of background on Ryan. Ryan's dynamic presentation has engaged audiences to take action on their goals. His strategic hands-on approach to consulting has helped his clients to uncover needs to create really effective solutions in all aspects of their business. He helps clients to become effective team and company leaders, develop and maintain a strong personal and professional brand, create ideal sales and marketing processes, gain market exposure, and operate in a more productive manner. Ryan is a coach to high performers and a consultant to industry leaders with over 20 years experience in sales, marketing, personal branding, as well as professional and leadership development. He's worked in many industries, including healthcare, medical, real estate, construction, and media. And helping people succeed is what Ryan says is his single passion in business. So Ryan Miller, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. I really appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for taking some time today. I know an hour out of anybody's day is quite expensive, particularly in a day and age when we are running really hot. We've got a lot of things going on. And so definitely I want to value the time that you've invested here today. Thank you, Lisa, for the introduction. It's always fun to hear other people talk about you, especially when they're talking nice about you. So I really appreciate that. As Lisa said, PrimePay is doing the very best they can in investing into their broker partners and trying to invest into helping them generate new ideas, new opportunities, and really at the end of the day, right, become more profitable both as individuals and as agencies. And so what I want to share with you today really is, I believe, one of the keys to success if you are going to continue to be successful in this industry. I do have experience in the healthcare industry. I worked for what is now one of the largest national brokerage firms for about 3 years. I've had exposure to many different facets of the industry, and I continue to consult and coach both individual insurance brokers and consultants, as well as a couple of large national firms. So I've got experience, and so I may say we from time to time, and that's because I both feel the pain as well as the joy and opportunity that's out there as brokers in this industry, and trying to innovate and trying to make a difference in this world. So broker excellence is what I want to share with you today. And so let me just define that for you a little bit so you can get a good idea of what that is specifically. So broker excellence, as you can see, that's not a misspelling in the word excellence, by the way. It's something that I have branded for myself, and really that's taking that idea of excellence and injecting sales into that. So you'll see the S and sell there. So broker excellence is really being an engaged team focused on meeting your customers' needs while consistently making your financial goals for the organization. At the end of the day, I believe that our responsibility as business leaders and salespeople is to meet our customers' needs. That is first and foremost. That has to be what drives us to do everything that we do from the moment we get out of bed this morning as professionals. But at the same time, if we're not consistently meeting financial goals and making financial goals, then we don't eat. The teams that we work for do not eat, and the organizations just begin to falter. So you want to make sure that you're consistently both meeting your clients' needs and making financial goals at the same time. Then as we drop down into a salesperson, and I understand that there's going to be both agency owners as well as individual salespeople and consultants on this. And so I want to define an excellent salesperson as well. And so you'll see here, right, an excellent salesperson will be professional, proficient, and productive. And so just to quickly define those things, professional is both in the way that we speak, but also in how we carry ourselves, how we look, our brand that faces the market. We're proficient, meaning that not only are we experts in our industry, but we are quickly able to address the needs of our clients. We are effective in how we manage our day, in how we deliver information back to our prospects, into our clients. And then productive. Are we actually producing? Are we spending time every single day on revenue generating activities? Or, and I'll get to this in a little bit, or are we just resting on the laurels of past success because we've been able to receive a really good split from our agency, and we've got a good book of business and can sit there. And then obviously, in order to achieve that, in order to achieve excellence as a salesperson, you have to make sure that the organization is providing to you a high performance yet fulfilling work environment, and that all of your systems, processes, and people are aligned with this goal, right? Again, to grow top line revenue, to develop the team, and to provide an exceptional experience to your clients. So let me jump into this, and I'll show you guys a little bit of what I feel like are some of the keys. One thing before we do is I want to talk about some of the struggles that we face as brokers today, whether that, again, as an agency owner or as an individual. So one of the things I hear very often from brokers out there when I'm in the marketplace is I hear people say that once we get in front of a client, we can close them. So this is a lot of times spoken from an area of confidence, but I feel like it begins to lean on this idea of cockiness. Because when I hear people say once we get in front of a client, we can close them, what I hear is I don't have a clear process. I can get in front of people, I'll close them. But what does that really mean? Do you actually have a process in place that's not only put you in front of that prospect, but that will ensure the greatest level of success in taking them through your sales process, and at the end of the day, receiving that broker of record letter? So that's one struggle that I hear as I speak to brokers. The second one is we get all of our business from referrals. Again, that is a great, great thing if that was 100% to be true. But when I hear people say we get business or we get all of our business from referrals, what I hear people a lot of times saying is that I have a lack of drive. And I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to be accusatory when I hear things like that. But typically when people say that they get their business from referrals, what they're saying is I'm waiting on somebody to give me back a lead, and I'm not out there hunting. And if you're not hunting, you are not a sales professional. I believe every sales professional should continue to hunt until the day that they die, or retire off on some amazing island somewhere, and then you can do whatever you want. The last struggle that I hear often is people saying, I built a really lucrative career for myself. And that's wonderful. Again, if you have a large book of business, if you've been very successful, if you're generating a couple $100,000 a year in consistent revenue for yourself, that's fantastic. Kudos to you, and we should celebrate that. But oftentimes when I'm hearing that, underneath that, what I'm really hearing people say is I'm resting on my past success. Again, both the beauty and really a lot of the detriment of this industry, particularly with salespeople, is it's easy to generate a significant amount of revenue from a book of business because we get retention on that book. The problem is over a period of time, that book is just going to deteriorate, right? Whether it's due to acquisition or unfortunately a mistake is made and we lose that client. There's just a lot of different ways that our book can deteriorate. And if all we're doing is resting on our past success and holding on to that revenue, we're missing out on opportunities to continue to grow that book, to continue to grow our income. So those are some of the struggles that I face. And again, one of the reasons why I decided to develop this program for brokers across the country. So I'm going to go over these briefly, and then I'm going to break them down for us so you can get a little bit better of idea of the 5 areas that I feel are key to building a business development team. And again, this is relevant to agency owners as well as to individual salespeople. Some things may be different in how you're handling them or in your responsibility, but you can take each one of these things, and I'll try and talk through some of those as they differ between the two. So the first one is roles. If you're going to have a successful business development team, particularly as we're looking ahead into the future of healthcare and health insurance, you've got to have the right roles in place. And the right roles do not come unless they've been designed appropriately and then hired for. And so you want to make sure that you're recruiting, that you're interviewing, and that your onboarding are dialed in to ensure that everybody is as successful as possible, as quickly as possible. We cannot afford to hire people in and hope that a year from now they're generating revenue. We need to ensure that 120 days into somebody being hired, that they're bringing in qualified opportunities that we're able to close. The third area is around taking action. So again, we spend tons and tons of time coming up with all these systems and processes, and maybe we've got good salespeople in place, but are we taking action? Are we hunting down great leads for us? Do we know who our ideal client is? Do we even know how to go after them? Once we bring them into our system, maybe that's capturing them in some kind of lead portal or a CRM or your email marketing campaigns. What's your system for then beginning to build a relationship with them, add value for them, and then ultimately draw them into wanting to take a meeting with you? And then once you get that meeting, what does that process look like? How many meetings does it take in order for you to close that deal? What do you need to ensure of in each meeting to make sure that you are getting that next step and that next step? And ultimately, again, that broker of record letter, which is what most of us are striving for in this industry. Fourth key to building a business development team is around measuring success. So we want to make sure that we have the appropriate tools in place and the appropriate measurement or key indicators in place in our agencies and even for us as individuals. Again, I'll break this down later, but some of the things that you can begin thinking about are what is success? Like, what is success as a broker? Is it just generating revenue? Like, I mean, are you successful if you generate $150,000 or $200,000 a year in new business revenue? Maybe. But in an agency that I led in the past, one of the problems I found was that I had a guy doing over $200,000 in new business revenue every single year, but he was doing that with very, very few qualified appointments and closing very few deals. So again, some people may say, and for your business, you may think that that's a great opportunity, or that's a great candidate, and that's a high performer. But what I saw that it was I have a guy that's generating $200,000 off of 4 closed deals that he can do inside of 90 days. So if I can find ways to extract more of him out of himself over that additional 9 months, man, that guy could be killing it, and our agency could be benefiting from it. So what's success look like? Is it just revenue? Is it activity? What types of activity, and so on? And obviously that's dependent upon roles too, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And then lastly is the plan. As an agency owner, as a sales professional, do you have a plan in place that you begin with every single year, that you review throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, you go back and you reflect on? Because if you don't have a plan, I forget who said it, but we've heard the mantra time and time again, is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I believe that 100% to be the case, no more so than in an industry like this, when we are going in a million different directions, when things are changing every single day, when we're fighting against providers and carriers and the government and competitors and challenging clients and prospects in the marketplace. So we want to make sure that we have a plan, and we have a really, really good one that's dialed in and everybody's on the same page with. All right, so let's dig into that. That was just some of the overview. I want to get into the guts, and I really hope that as I get into these guts, that there are things that you're able to take away from this. This is not a pitch to you. This is an opportunity for you to gain practical value from each of these areas that I'm going to go through. So one of my favorite authors is Stephen Covey. One of Stephen Covey's most popular statements was begin with the end in mind. And so that's why I'm starting with number 5, and that's the plan. We'll get back to the plan again at the very end. But I want to start there, because if we don't start at the end and know what we're trying to create for ourselves or our agencies, again, we will fail. If we don't know what we want, how do we know what to build in order to get there? So when we think about our plan, any good sales and marketing business development plan for a broker, for an agency, has to have these key components. So the first one is mission. Sometimes this is taken too lightly, and other times people invest way too much into this. But simply, you want to make sure that you have a clear mission that every single person on your team knows, can recite, and it is very, very clear on. So you want to make sure you have a mission, because you want to go back and check and continue to make sure that the things that you're doing are in support of that mission. And if you get too far off track, you're going to either need to change the mission or change the track. Second area there is purpose. So clearly those two things are different, right? Our mission and our purpose. But you want to ensure that you have a clear purpose as an agency, as an individual. What is it that you're doing? So in my example here, right, the purpose of my firm's marketing efforts is to both provide the sales consultants with a specific number of prospect meetings in our target market and strengthen the firm's brand in the market. So this would be a marketing plan's purpose. Yours may be a little bit different, again, depending upon the role you play, or if you're an agency owner in this space. And then number 3, the process. So how are you going to fulfill that purpose? In order to fulfill that purpose, you have to do a certain number of things. So in the example here, it's creating initial prospect meetings in the target market for the sales consultants. And in order to do that, you've got to pursue only your target market. You've got to utilize a consistent effort of inbound and outbound marketing strategies. And you have to execute clear follow-up on every single activity that's generated. And again, this is just a very generic marketing plan for an organization, but you need to have this for yourself. I cannot stress the importance of these critical components. Next, we're going to break these down a little bit further, but you need to, inside of your plan, you need to articulate the roles that are going to be vital to your success. Now, most people feel like this is just an agency's responsibility, or this is just for an agency to do, to create roles. But even as a salesperson, you want to be very clear on the roles that are vital to your plan of success. in order for you to generate X number of dollars in revenue every single year, what are the roles that are going to contribute to your success? Articulate those. If you don't have them yet, you lay them out. Make that a desire of what you want to see in the future. One of the things, and I'm going to talk about this in a little while, but as salespeople, particularly you that have been successful and you've gotten pretty busy and you're maxing out your book of business, you may want to consider hiring on a business development rep to work with you. And that may come out of your own pocket. That may come out of your commission. But that's a role that could be vital to you multiplying your book of business to a 2, 3, even 10x of what it is right now. So be clear in articulating the roles and the responsibilities within those roles. Next, you can see at the bottom of that little example is your ideal client. I could spend hours upon hours talking about this, but anybody that says their target client is anyone or everyone, or that your target client is groups of 50 to 500, you haven't spent enough time here. You want to know specifically who your target client is, because if you're going to invest a ton of money into marketing, into both locally, branding yourself, nationally, whatever that may be, you want to make sure that you are creating a brand that speaks specifically to the person that you're trying to target. For me, I mean, a great example is I have a beard, and so it wouldn't do the razor companies, it wouldn't benefit the razor company a whole lot to market to me because I don't use a regular razor, and so they don't need to spend their time investing in, and invest their money into trying to market to me. That just doesn't make any sense. They want to reach out to people that have a clean shaven face and are striving for that on a regular basis. So make sure that as you're thinking through and laying out your ideal client, that it goes beyond region and company size, that you get to industry, buyer type, buyer profile, likes, dislikes. The deeper you go on ideal client, the better you're going to be. All right. Next in the marketing plan is goals. So what are your goals as a firm? What are your goals as an individual? And this, again, is not just revenue. Revenue is extremely important. It's what keeps us all alive as business leaders and business owners, but that's not it. So again, some examples that I have here. So acquiring new leads, that's one of my goals. And I'm going to lay out the number that is. Another goal is to invite prospects to live events. How many live events do I want to have? And how many people do I need to invite? What are my goals there? I want to generate referrals from existing clients and partners. What's the number there? What is my goal around being able to do that? I want to follow up with engaged prospects. So how many prospects do I want to engage with on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually basis? And then what is going to be my commitment, my number in my success rate? Because there is a way to calculate the success rate of conversion of getting somebody from a cold lead to a warm lead into presentation and onto a closed deal. We want to make sure we know our numbers well. And then the last couple of areas here, so execution. So in my plan, we're still talking plan, I have laid out goals for myself, roles, mission, purpose. But now, how am I going to execute on that? Like, how am I going to determine who my ideal clients are, and where is that going to go? Like, am I going to put that into a system? Am I going to build out a profile? Am I going to create buyer personas and hang them on the wall so everybody in the organization knows the types of clients that we're going after? Once I get them, or once I identify them, where am I going to find them? And how am I going to do that? Once I find them, where am I going to put them? And do I have a CRM? Am I going to use a Excel template? Like, how am I going to execute on the beginnings of my sales process? And then lastly, and for you agency owners, you should respect this more than anything, what's the budget? I typically say, and I think I'll share this a little bit later, but your marketing budget should typically be somewhere between 1% to 2% of overall revenue. Even for you salespeople, I would recommend that you have a budget for marketing for yourself So you can use that same number to some degree. So if you're earning $100,000, you should probably spend about $2,000 of your own money every single year on marketing, regardless of what your agency is contributing to you. You should spend some of your own money there. There's some cool things that you can do with that. Just you want to make sure that you have a budget ahead of time. All right, so we went to the end. Now we're going to go through some of the guts of the first 4 that I shared with you. I'm a huge fan of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Used to be a WWF fan, and now I've gone on to be a fan of his movies and the Titan games and so many other things. I follow him on Instagram all the time. He's jacked and always doing good fitness stuff, so he's a fun guy to follow. But one of the things that I love he says is he's known for saying, know your role. And so I'm going to breeze through this a little bit more quickly, because I know when it comes to action is where people are going to want to spend a little bit more time. But when it comes to roles, again, you want to make sure that as an agency owner and or even as a salesperson, that you have laid out the roles. So in my example here, you'll see that a typical agency is going to have a few of, if not all of these types of roles participating in their sales and marketing efforts. So there may be an outside marketing team and or resources. So do you have one? What is their responsibility? What do you hold them accountable for? Do you have an internal marketing team? If that's a role within your organization, you want to make sure that you're providing or what they're providing to you. Are they supporting the outside team? Are they doing something different? What are their specific responsibilities in that as well? Do you have a business development team that's separate from your consulting team? So again, this is something that I implemented into an agency I was working for back in 2015, and this was taken from the technology space. In the technology industry, sales development reps, those reps that are doing a lot of the initial outreach, lead gen, they're teeing up qualified opportunities. That's been something that software and tech has invested a lot into and has found a lot of success in, and we're starting to see that make its way into health insurance and brokerages, and I love it. I think that there needs to be a lot more of this, both because that's a great way to tee up opportunities, but not just that, it's also a wonderful farm system for your agency. Quick story, and I think I'm going to share how I found it in just a minute here, but I was hiring kids right out of college that I was using a recruiting agency for. They had all of the characteristics of a successful person. They were hungry, they were humble, they were smart. I ripped that off from Patrick Lencioni's Ideal Team Player, but they demonstrated all those characteristics. They just didn't have sales experience. And so I thought, man, if I can take those characteristics, teach them the basics of business development just inside, start them there, and then grow them from there, I bet I can develop them into some highly successful benefits consultants down the road, 18, 24, 36 months out. So business development reps, that's a great team to consider for your agency, or even for you as an individual salesperson. Again, you can groom somebody to be just like you, as long as you're really good and you're doing the things that you should be doing. Obviously, we all have some sort of salesperson, a consultant, insurance broker, whatever. That's the person that's asking for the deal, and then a manager. What I do notice a lot of times in smaller agencies, is there is not a clear sales manager, and that's understandable because that's a huge expense that a lot of people just can't cover. But make sure that even if you're the agency owner and you're leading your team, that you have a really good structure, that you've created responsibilities for people to fulfill, that you're holding people accountable. They need that structure. Salespeople need structure. I've been in some form of sales for 20 years, and one of the things that I noticed was I thrived the most in environments where I had somebody holding me accountable and really looking out for my good on a day-to-day basis. Compensation's big. It looks like my slide flipped there. I'm really sorry, but you want to make sure that you have some good compensation, a good compensation structure built out. That's again going to be really important. And so there's some really simple tools that you can use to when you're hiring people in and showing them year one, here's what you're going to make, and based on some very conservative projections, year 2, 3, 4, 5, what that's going to look like. So there's some simple tools to do that, but you want to make sure that you're doing that as well. And lastly, you want to give them a career path. I skipped over that moving on to this, but that will play very well into this. You know, when you're recruiting, interviewing and onboarding salespeople, especially the junior ones, you want to make sure that you're giving them a good path. Maybe you want them to one day just become the best inside sales or business development rep known to man. That's totally fine. If they are going to lifelong just tee up and close deals, that's fine. If they want to become a world-renowned or a nationally known benefits broker, then that's fine too. Just help them to create that path and help them to fulfill the desires they have. One of the biggest reasons why I see people leave agencies is not because of money, but because there's no path to growth. And that doesn't mean that you have to open up an opportunity for them to become a sales manager one day, because that's not the best solution for a lot of people. You just want to make sure that they can continue to develop as professionals and they can grow. So show that to them. Second area is around recruiting. Jim Collins says, get the right people on the bus in his book, Good to Great. That's absolutely key. You want to make sure that you're recruiting, interviewing, and onboarding people as best as you possibly can. So again, I'm going to breeze through a few of these things, while others I'm going to jump into in a little bit more detail, just for sake of time. So when you're recruiting, you want to make sure that you're able to clearly communicate your agency's story and your unique value proposition in the marketplace. Tell people what you're good at and be very, very convicted and convinced of that, and make sure that you've built a brand that supports that. So if they come in to hire or to interview with you and you're telling them that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and come to find out, they look online and find out that you haven't done, 90% of the things that you said you've done, and you don't carry a good brand name in the marketplace, those things just don't align. So make sure that your story, your unique value proposition are in line with one another. Just quickly, I'll mention, because I talked about it a little bit earlier. So when it comes to recruiting, if you are looking to recruit, there is a great agency out there called Athletes to Careers. I don't have any affiliation to them other than the fact that I've used them and been very successful with them. They were the one they're out scouring college campuses, looking for accomplished athletes that are not going to go into the professional ranks, that they think can become good salespeople. And I was very successful in finding candidates there to bring in as business development reps and on to develop them as salespeople. So you just want to make sure that when you're recruiting, that you've got the right process in place to recruit the right people. Interviewing. Again, I'm going to pop through this somewhat quickly, but I'd be happy to share some more resources offline if this is something you're interested in. When you're interviewing, you want to make sure that you have a good process in place, that you're doing the right assessments. So there are some assessments that I see people do that are absolutely terrible. One of the best ones, I think personally, is the Clifton Strengths Finder. I think it's a simple way to know where people's strengths lie and whether or not you're going to be able to work with them within the confines of your agency to become better at, to become a better version of who they are. Want to make sure that you've got good interview questions. So I developed some questions that I share with a lot of my clients around non-sales related questions that will give me a really good understanding as to whether or not they're going to be a great player on my team. Things around attitude, around heart, around humility. Those are way more important than the capability of a salesperson. Anybody can be taught to sell. That's not something that you're born with, that's something that you're taught. But what you are born with is a lot of intrinsic value around our heart, our head. Those are the things that you want to interview for and pay extra special attention to. All right, lastly, again, here's a quote, Ben Franklin, failing to plan is planning to fail. The internet told me that was true, so that's got to be true. When it comes to onboarding, just a couple of things briefly here. Make sure that you've given them a path. Don't just hire somebody on and then leave them to their own device. That may sound silly, but I see a lot of agencies doing that. I've developed a tool called the 120 Days to Success that I give to every single one of my broker clients. I develop it in a different realm for some of my other clients as well. But this is within 120 days, what is going to make them successful. And that's broken down to the first week, the first month, the first 2 months, and the first 3 months. And that's everything from the educational material that they're going to need, the books that I'm asking them to read, when they're going to go on ride-alongs, when they're going to interact with account management, when they're going to go out and do some networking, the ways they're going to learn, the tools that they're going to use. So that is a very, very intricate process. But I believe that you are going to make or break the success of somebody within the first 120 days of them being on board. And particularly if you're paying them some kind of base salary or some draw of some sort, it's really expensive to hire somebody and find out 6 months or a year later that they're not successful. I guarantee you that if you follow something like this tool that I've developed, within 120 days, you will know for certain whether or not they're going to be successful, maybe even sooner than that. So you want to make sure that you've got that in place. That's going to, again, allude to the priorities that are necessary for them to follow, the needs that they have, the education that's going to be required, and so on. All right, taking action. So focusing on the right things, that's key. So you want to make sure here, when it comes to taking action, that you have the right process in place. So here's an example of a process that I use with all of my clients inside and outside of the industry to help them with lead generation and pursuit. It's called the 21-day prospect pursuit. And very simply, we follow a couple simple steps up in the beginning, and then I lay out a process for them. Over 21 days, we touch them 7 times, and that varies, right? Emails, phone calls, snail mail, or face-to-face drops if we're able to get in front of people. We've got scripts that we use for that. We're very, very intentional with the things that we do there, but I want to guarantee that we have put every effort forth to strike while the iron is hot with that opportunity that we see in front of us. So if you meet somebody at a networking event and they've expressed any sort of interest in you whatsoever, boom, they go into the 21-day prospecting pursuit. If they download one of my white papers online, boom, into the 21-day prospecting pursuit. If they came out as one of the best places to work in Madison, Wisconsin, boom, they go into the 21-day process pursuit. That can be tweaked a little bit. Sometimes you want to space those days out a little bit differently, but I've never found this not work to some degree in every single client that I've worked with. So process is important. Scripts are also key. Whether you are a seasoned professional and you've been at this for 40 years, or this is day 1 for you, you want to make sure that you have scripts for everything. And I mean everything. Every time you pick up the phone, you should be working from a script. You may memorize it, but there is a script there. Every time that you go to a networking event, there's a script. When you reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, there's a script. When you follow up with somebody via email, there's a script. Every single instance of us communicating requires a script. Professionals use scripts. Scripts are not for amateurs, and too often we believe it's the other way around. We want to make sure that we have the appropriate tools in place. So it's not just scripts, right? We want to make sure that any tool that we have available to us as sales professionals, we are utilizing in order to create the highest opportunity for conversion within that deal. So here's a tool that I use, again, with my clients. This is a meeting preparation tool. I call it Preparing to Win. If you have not planned ahead of time to go into every single meeting, even the very first meeting that you go into, you've already failed. And so you can see here some of the questions that are in this. And I know you're going to get a copy of this afterwards, so you can look at some of these. But this is just one section of multiple in the meeting planner. What's your objective in every single meeting? If you don't have that question answered, you've failed. What needs does your client have? What are their goals? Like, you should know some of this ahead of time. You should have done enough research to have some sort of understanding. Number 3 is big. How can you help meet the client's needs? That answer is probably not, especially out of the gate, selling them insurance. There's a lot of things that you can do to add value and meet your clients' or prospective clients' needs before you even ask for the sale. Make sure that you do that. Know what kind of value you contribute to them. What objections do you expect? You should have those written out, and you should prepare and have responses ready when you get in there. You should never, ever, ever be caught off guard when you are in a sales conversation, ever. And if you are asked a question that you don't know, you just say you don't know and you get back to them. I've been in far too many meetings and ride-alongs with people, and they get stumped and they try and talk their way out of something, and they sound like absolute disasters. And that is unprofessional, and that is not what you should do. You can be professional and say you don't know. But if you try to talk your way through something that you don't know, you've already lost. And a lot of times that will turn the client off from ever wanting to do business with you again. And again, it goes on, right? Why does a client want to do business with you? What are the next steps? That's another one. You want to make sure that you know what your next step is before you even get there. And then how are you going to achieve that? So those are some of the things. Again, this is just in preparation for a meeting. I mean, we haven't even talked about executing on the meeting itself. But these tools are necessary in order to make sure that we're executing appropriately. Another tool that I give to my clients, and so this is on typically a second appointment, so after they've kind of done an introduction, this is when we're executing on a discovery meeting. So how do I make sure that I am going to ensure the greatest level of success, that I'm going to extract the most information, I'm going to contribute the most value to my meetings? Well, for my clients, I recommend that they follow this 7-step process every time they go into a discovery meeting. Have some simple conversation starters ready to go. What are your qualification questions going to be, and how are you going to ask them? What's going to be your guys' mutual agreement on need? They express a need. You've got to create an agreement there that there is a need that's been declared. You want to share a little bit about you. You want to sell them on who you are as a firm to make sure that you instill some confidence without just throwing up all over them. Then you want to fill the need. So you've agreed on this need, you've told them a little bit about you, so now you're going to communicate to them how you're going to fulfill that need for them. Then you're going to get them to commit to next steps and then confirm that close. And so here's where I see a lot of people fail, particularly salespeople fail, and even more so in the insurance industry. And I hope that you all feel this when I say this. How often have you left a meeting with a prospective client's commitment to you to send you more information? I mean, the answer, like, if you could all shout out, the majority of you would say yes. The problem is you probably have not given them a specific date, and there hasn't been an agreed upon date to follow up with information. I would fight back and even say that you should try not to do that as often as possible. Don't wait on information, but I know sometimes that's a necessary evil. And so you want to commit to next steps. By when? By when is this going to be fulfilled? And by when are we going to set our next meeting, knowing that you're going to get me what I need ahead of that meeting? So you want to not just commit to the next steps, but you want to confirm that and ensure that you both agreed that that is in fact necessary. And so agency owners, if you're listening to this, this is the process that your sales team or salespeople should be following each and every time they go on one of these discovery meetings. You want to make sure that you have walked away from that meeting, that you've spent time and money investing into going after. You want to make sure that you walk away from that as confident as humanly possible that you're going to get that next meeting, or that you've already had it and that they're actually just going to live up to their end of the agreement and they're going to show up for that final meeting. Measuring success, again, I talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but you want to make sure that you've got clear goals. Again, whether you own the business or you're selling for the business, what are the goals for the team leader? Even if you're a salesperson, you should know what your team leader's goals are. What are the goals of the agency or your sales manager, if you have one, or your marketing team? What are those goals? You should know what the goals of other people are, because that will create a lot more collaboration, and you will do a better job of contributing to each other's success if you know what each other's goals are. Then you need to have goals for the team themselves. What is each individual team member's goals? Again, that should be far more than just revenue. That should be based upon activity, the type of activity, the success rate of that activity. Those should all be things that are goals. In addition to that, you should have some goals around professional development and education. Everybody should be continuing to develop themselves as a professional. And so you want to make sure that you're creating and expecting those goals of your individual team players as well. And if you're a salesperson, you should have those goals for yourself. If you don't have professional development goals that are clearly defined, you've missed a great opportunity for yourself. And that's along this idea of telling a greater story, right? It's not just about revenue, it's about far more than revenue. So again, outbound calls, meetings, revenue, those are all things that we can include as we are talking about measuring success. All right, so we've hit the home stretch here. I am going to just reiterate a couple of things really quickly on this idea of plan, and then I'm going to open it up for questions, or I think Lisa's going to open it up for questions. So again, beginning with the end in mind. Stephen Covey said it, I ripped it off, I live by it. You want to make sure that your plan has a mission, a purpose, a process, roles, your ideal client defined, goals, and the execution strategy by which you're going to get there, as well as a budget. Inside of that, there are tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of components depending upon the size of your agency. And so my recommendation to you is, if you're building out this plan, of which I'm going to share a copy of this with everybody that wants one afterwards, and I'll tell you how to get that in just a second. Start small. Start with the thing that you know you can knock out, and then just work your way through it. You don't have to have this all figured out at once. For some agencies, this is going to take the better part of a year to do, and that's fine. Just start at what's going to be the highest payoff activity for you. And so if you know you're deficient in execution, start with execution. Go right into why you're not able to convert the number of deals that you thought you were. If it's around roles, maybe people are playing the wrong roles. You know, that could be something. There's so much inside of that that is so critical to an agency's success. So I told you that I want to give that to you. So that will be your free resource from me as a way of saying thank you for sitting through this. And again, I know we'll answer some questions in a minute. That will be that annual business development and marketing plan. You can fill that in. That's a way for you to plan ahead for the rest of 2019. Don't wait till the end of 2019 and plan for 2020. That's far too long to do that. It's going to help to dictate where you're going, but also where you're at right now and what you're doing. So that's going to be super helpful for you. So the way that you're going to be able to do that is by accessing that link at the bottom right there. So ryanjamesmiller.com/broker-excellence/mastermind. What you're also going to see on that page is something that I'm launching the first week of April. And this is going to be the first of its kind. So I've been doing a lot of consulting and coaching to agencies as well as individual consultants. But now I want to bring those two things together. And so what I'm going to be doing is creating, or I have created, what's called the Broker Excellence Mastermind. And so that's going to be an opportunity for 6 people on this first run to step into a 6-month engagement. You're going to have access to me, a one-on-one, once a month, on a structured call that's been calendared and set, as well as unlimited access to me via text, phone call, for any other time that I'm available for you. You'll also have access to and join in on one monthly group mastermind call. So we'll all jump on a call together that I'll facilitate, and we will walk through building out this entire process, particularly focusing on the execution side of things, because I want to make sure that you get a return for your value as quickly as possible. As part of this mastermind, you're gonna get a ton of tools. So you're going to get a 1-year sales and marketing plan. You're going to get a tool on how to properly set up and utilize your business development reps. You're going to get that 120 days to success tool to build out for yourself and or your agency. You're going to get a tool on building the ultimate sales process. And so that's inside of the time that I attract the lead to convert them. What does that process need to look like in order to be successful? There's about 6 or 8 other tools there that are going to be available to you. I'm going to give you every single script that I've created for my clients, specifically in the brokerage industry. So you're going to get all the prospecting scripts for phone and email and LinkedIn. You're going to get scripts for discovery meetings and presentations and networking events. So you're going to get a boatload of scripts there as well. And the last thing, and it's not here, but you'll see when you go to this site, is I'm also going to offer 2 additional things to the first 6 people that fill this first mastermind. And that's 2 additional trainings. The first one is called Event Excellence, and that one is how to set up, execute on, and then convert on events if you are setting up or generating events for yourself or your agency. And then the last one, and the one that I'm most proud of, and is the reason why even Lisa and I connected the way that we did, is called LinkedIn Excellence. And that's how to build a significant brand on LinkedIn that will attract your clients and will have them reaching out to you, asking you to do business together. And so those 2 trainings are going to be included for anybody that would opt into this Broker Excellence Mastermind. So you can go to that page, you can look through the mastermind. If you want nothing more than just a free 1-year marketing plan, you can scroll down to the bottom and you can access that, no problem, no skin off my back. But if you feel like you're a good candidate for this, click on secure your spot now. I'll get a notification, then we'll set up a call to make sure that you're the right person for this. So with that, I think we're going to turn it back over to Lisa and open it up for any questions.
All right, thanks a lot, Ryan. There's a lot of great content here. So let me take a look at this. Oh, somebody wasn't. Okay, I thought somebody wasn't able to hear you for a second there. And you may have just already answered this, but what would you recommend is the best lead generation?
Yeah, so I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's LinkedIn, but not the way that 99% of the people are doing LinkedIn. If you build a solid, professional, consistent brand for yourself on LinkedIn, within 6 months, you will start to see results. If you're expecting anything sooner than that, it's not worth it, but I guarantee you that if you invest 6 months, it will pay off for the next couple of years. And I know that because I have a lot of direct interaction with the LinkedIn team, and I know what's coming, and you will want to be here.
How do I motivate my agency owner to follow this model or make a plan?
That's a great question. You've got to sell it to them. And by that, I mean, why would they want to do anything differently than they've already done? And it doesn't take many of us long to go out onto the internet and see all of the problems that we're facing in this industry as brokers. We're being gobbled up by the big guys. And so if they don't want to be gobbled up, they need to do something differently if it's not working for them. So that's a value proposition. If they do want to be gobbled up because they want to sail off into the sunset, they've got to get all their ducks in a row, which means they've got to have their agency innovating now, not when they're approached 6 months from now by one of the big houses that are out there. But beyond that, like, if you want to survive in this business, you cannot rely on rate and quote anymore. And you have got to innovate. We're watching this in every other industry, and we're seeing the way, like, I worked in the printing industry, that's all but gone now. And I worked for a large publicly traded company that did not innovate appropriately, and their stock price dropped by 90% as a result of them not innovating quickly enough. And so present the value to them. Like, why would it benefit them to make changes? And then, I hate to say this, but some of them just aren't. And then you need to decide whether or not that's where you want to spend the rest of your career.
There was a question, it's kind of similar to that. It's tough to compete with the larger agencies. And they go on to say the depth of, the different roles that you described, their agency just doesn't have it. So what would you recommend in those situations?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I actually believe that you have more opportunity to beat the big firms than have ever been present in the past. I have some good friends in this industry, so one of which, when I say his name, many of you are going to know him, a gentleman by the name of David Contorno, worked for a large firm, went to work for himself, and is having more success as an individual independent agent than he has ever had in the past, because he is able to design his business the way he wants and execute the way he wants. I tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that if you walk the talk, if you build that brand for yourself and you're committed to it, your ideal clients will want to do business with you. They are watching as a lot of these big houses are taking advantage of hidden fees and rebates and kickbacks and all these other things out there. And you and I both know that you don't need those things to be successful financially in this industry. So if you had a credible brand and you walked into some large CFO, but multi-thousand employee company, and you were able to pitch that idea to them that you can be more transparent, that you can provide them more value, and that you have the credibility to back it up, I guarantee you they'll be willing to listen.
There's this question about differentiation and talk about consultation, and I think you're just talking now, be innovative. What does that really mean? I think what they're asking is, what have you seen this success? What's innovation? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the easy answer, for sake of time, is you've got to be willing to do things differently than they've always been done. You can't accept, so I'm going to give you a quick example. So we saw this huge influx of HSA or high deductible HSA backed a strategy that came into the marketplace and really flooded it in the last couple of years. And everybody jumped on that boat because it was a way for the employers to save money, and the employees could meet their medical needs anyway, right? Because the HSA was funding it, yada, yada, yada. So like, it was just like mind-blowing strategy. The problem was that 95% of the people that took that on did not give a financial incentive over to the employee. And so guess what happened? The employee stopped going to the doctor, and the employee's medical costs started going up and up and up, because now they're going for much more significant events because they're too afraid to go for the small things. And then we all know that employer's costs went through the roof. And so when you started to see things like that happening, you should have been out in the marketplace holding up the stop sign. Like, just doing things differently is just saying, hold on. Just because it's the newest trend in the market doesn't mean that's what we need to do. Like, we're now talking about reference-based pricing and pharmacy carve-outs, and you should be able to have those conversations, but that's not the right conversation for everybody. Being progressive and innovating, to me right now, means you taking the time to sit down and listen to what your clients want. And it's not just an insurance thing. How do they want to attract and retain talent? How do they want to grow as a business? Where are they leaking money? And how can you help them to inject more revenue into that organization by building out a significant human capital management strategy? Like, you can do those things. You just need to be willing to take those risks. Detach yourself from the win, detach yourself from the revenue-based commission. Like, go at it with the mindset that I am going to help this person no matter what, and you will see reward.
Really good stuff. I mean, it really is. That consultative approach is just not on employee benefits, is what I hear you saying. It is a business discussion that people need to be able to have with their clients.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate your time. I'm sure everybody on the call received a lot of value from the presentation. We're just getting right at the hour here. One of the things that you did mention is professional development, learning, getting access to things. So I just also wanted to end on, as a broker concierge partner, if you're a partner now, if you're not, there's no cost to doing so. We have a lot of tools and resources for you. And these tools and resources can really help you compete against the big guys too, with educational resources, client webinars, different tools. We even have marketing resources. So I feel like we're really aligned to, Ryan, with what you're providing and what we can provide to really help the brokers maintain their book of business, but also grow their book of business. So with that, I want to thank everybody, especially you, Ryan, for delivering some great content to everybody. We will be sending out this presentation to everybody, and that information to get those tools and resources and the link that Ryan shows in his presentation, you will have that as well.
Yep.
Have a great rest of your week, everybody, and thanks again for your participation.
Thank you.